I wear my sunglasses at night so I can be cool, but not as cool as today's neighborhood video. This neighborhood is so cool that it was named the coolest neighborhood in all of America, and Time Out magazine named it the second coolest neighborhood in all the world. Some lame city in Copenhagen got number one, but that doesn't really matter. But I want you to be the judge. Continuing my Neighborhoods of Chicago playlist on YouTube, we are now here at Andersonville. Andersonville is part of the Edgewater community, one of the 77 communities of Chicago. And of course, the vibe we say is cool. And to have a cool vibe, you gotta have really good stuff to do. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through what I recommend when I say walk, actually using a bike, kind of going through and doing a Sunday fun day, right? Or a Saturday fun day. And this article, if I go back to the article really quick, they highlight and recommend going to Hopleaf to start off your day. Of course, they also mention going to Los Larson, which is a great pastry shop, by the way. But if you're like me, you want to have a little bit later start. We all work really, really hard during the week. So let's start that day a little bit later. And instead of starting off at Hopleaf, what I want you to do is that divvy. If you don't know divvy is you can rent bikes all throughout. They're blue, you can't miss them. Blue color all throughout Chicago. Very simple to do. There's a divvy app. I'll have some resources below. But get on a divvy and actually get it over on Damon and Foster, which is slightly west of where I want you to start. It's Empirical Brewery. And Empirical Brewery, okay, if you really want to get technical, basically Bowmanville and Ravenswood both share those neighborhoods share Empirical Brewery, but it's just west and not that far from Hopleaf and just outside of Andersonville. Empirical, which is basically a nerdist paradise, has so much geek memorabilia, along with on the TVs. You're not going to see your sports there. You're going to see either Marvel, DC, or Star Wars playing. So you have that nostalgia there. Check it out. And I didn't even speak about the beers. The beers are great. Start off there. Right? Then take that divvy and start going east, and you can go ahead and stop by Hopleaf with so many great beers to choose from. Grab a couple beers there. Now, the same article here on Time Out mentions going to the vintage store. You can go to the vintage store. Or if you're getting really hungry, I'd actually recommend going to something a little bit elevated and checking out Little Wolf. Because listen, riding that bike, because you're going to be going down in between having all those beers. Don't have too many, right? Don't drink and ride that bike. So in moderation, of course, but you have so much to do. Clark Avenue, speaking of vibe, is the heartbeat of the Andersonville, Chicago neighborhood, and that's where all the action is going on there. Bars, restaurants, stores, right? But it's not as crazy, as going to like a River North where you have late night and 2, 3 more. No, none of that. So it's more of a kind of a adult-oriented, I would say, atmosphere. There's of course families, but a lot of single professionals and young professionals, they flock there, a little bit older than young. So speaking of, as I mentioned, that Little Wolf, it's elevated food. So if that's what you're in the mood for, they've got tacos, they got really good lumpia. I had that a couple weeks ago, it's so good. But if that's not your take, you can end your night early or have an early dinner and go to Aura. Aura has been a staple. And it just closed in December of last year. They're reopening a brand new location. You can see it here. And people can't wait for that to open. It's going to be opening soon. So Aura could be a nightcap, or you can go to all the other bars just after you have the nice sushi meal over at Aura. One thing to point out about Empirical is it is bring your own. You can bring your own food. They have light snacks, so what I recommend is just having light snacks there. They got pretzels, and I think they got maybe cheese platters and some chips. Eat light there, and then actually, if you don't want to go to an elevated bar place, I did mention Little Wolf, you can go to a Pinto Pronto. I probably murdered that name. It's very simple, deli sandwiches. Eat kind of light, right? Because I did mention you can go to, you can even go to Little Wolf later, or go to Aura for sushi when it opens. And then for that kind of theater scene, theater is so huge in Chicago overall, but it's great in Andersonville. Again, referring to that article, they mentioned going to Neo Furitas Theater. I actually recommend going to Rivendell Ensemble Theater, which focuses on women issues. Just kind of mix it up. You've got options. That's the cool factor here in Andersonville. Go check out a show there. So you've got a full day planned, and that's just one day in Andersonville. And of course, in between going to the theater right after you have your great bike tour, going through the bikes at Divvy, you probably want to stay, if you're visiting here, it's probably best to stay at Airbnb, and actually through the chamber, there's a whole many resources of great places, Airbnbs to stay. It's a great alternative to hotels that are farther away from Andersonville, so you can actually rest up before going to seeing a show over at the Rivendell Ensemble Theater. Andersonville, Chicago has a lot of outdoor events, and not just in your typical peak summer season. Throughout the year, there are events to go to. So I just mentioned it before, the great resource, the Andersonville Chamber of Commerce. You have, besides the regular Midsummer Fest that happens in the summertime, you have a wine walk, you have sales going on. A lot of the merchants on that, I told you, that stretch, the Heartbeat Clark, right, kind of band together. They want to support each other. And they open up their stores and they have sales. Family friendly. Andersonville, yes, it surprised me. It is very family friendly. I'll mention schools in a little bit. Take your kiddos to Halloween. Parks, right? As if you watched any of my neighborhoods of Chicago, and I'm gonna reconfigure it to communities. That's kind of a TBD when I'm gonna do that as far as a playlist to make it easier for you and provide value. There is Sen. So Sen is the high school. There is a Sen Park. Right there, so many people take their doggos there. Of course, make sure you clean up, be a responsible owner. And there's park facilities there, just as typically managed by the Chicago Park District. So you've got the park there. And then, of course, you want a farmer's market, right? So farmer's market, and a lot of times, just kind of just for your education, typically May through October. So now, depending on when you see this video, it may not be available. We do get a little cold. However, you have something to look forward to in 2023 and beyond. There's a great farmer's market. And then finally, of course, the big elephant, you want beach life. And with this being strategically located, Andersonville is just minutes if you jump on a bike. Even walking, it's not bad. You've got Foster Beach, one of the underrated beaches, unlike the Oak and North Avenue beaches, it's not as crowded. So there's so many great, amazing stuff, outdoor things to do over in Andersonville, Chicago. Well, KYA, it's about knowing your audience. And originally my plan wasn't to include schools, but I'm actually doing a little soft reset. I'm going to be adding the school element to all my neighborhood videos. So of course, we're going to be starting with Andersonville, Chicago, and you have two primary neighborhood schools you can see right here. Helen Pierce International Studies Elementary School, the emphasis on international studies. There is an international baccalaureate program, which is broken into two different parts: primary years and middle years. So your age 3 to 12 will go to the primary years, and then your above that 6th and 7th grade and 8th grade will go to the middle years. And technically, with this partnership with Sen, which I'll talk about in a second, your child can go from pre-K all the way to 12th grade if you're living in Andersonville. So if you're looking for a really strong, really powerful neighborhood school, there are some admission requirements. It is within the boundaries, so make sure you search that and I'll have all the resources. But it's a great way to start. If you have those kiddos and you want to stay in the neighborhood and actually almost be nostalgic and walk to your neighborhood school, those are the two options. With Sen High School, you live in the neighborhood, you are going to get in. There is a lottery that's in the general education. However, there's an IB, International Baccalaureate program, which goes on a point system and you may have to test in. So make sure parents, if you're interested and want to have your child go to Sen, remember, living in the boundary. And if you don't live in the boundary, if there's leftover spaces, you would, of course, anything remaining, depending on if your child qualifies, will be able to go in there. So Sen is 9 to 12 and Pierce is pre-K to 8th grade. Of course, transportation. I do like to mention in these videos, neighborhood-centric videos, transportation, and Andersonville has several. Two main red lines are the Bryn Mawr and the Berwyn. Now with the latter, Depending on when you see this video, it may still be going through repairs. There's a whole big construction of that line. So Bryn Mawr is your main line. And of course, right, Google is your friend. But just for your education here, you can simply go into Google, type in Bryn Mawr. I'll tell you, you're going to see here graphics on how it's spelled. And you can click that directions. And just again, for your education, you can type in, okay, how long it will take to go to the Loop, Chicago, if you have to work downtown. So go ahead and you do that research on your own. But yeah, Red Line is serviced by Bryn Mawr, so you can basically go anywhere red, and you can go down south, transfer, go over to other lines. And so it's very convenient to have that line, that Red Line in Andersonville. In my continued effort to provide extreme value to all of my great viewers, all of my 288 subscribers, and hopefully growing, I'm going to be restructuring my neighborhood playlists, and it's actually going to be community areas. There are 9 community areas of Chicago, and within those community areas, each of those playlists, I'll have the associated neighborhood or community, because that's how it's broken up. It's community area, community, and then neighborhoods. So for example, here in this Andersonville, it's part of the Edgewater community. I've got a couple of great videos, and that's what I want you to watch. I included Edgewater community as one of the 5 areas to know to buy early in 2022, right? I'm gonna have an Edgewater community specific neighborhood, and of course then Andersonville. So each one of these playlists will have at least 3 videos, again, providing value to you. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you go click on that Edgewater community to learn more about the community at large. And if you get any questions at all, reach out, click on that, subscribe to the channel. Can't wait to see you on the next video. Take care.